Cybersecurity Studios powered by DigiCert. In business today, trust isn't just earned in boardrooms, it is built in every digital interaction. From digital payments to supply chain systems to e signatures, digital trust is fast becoming the backbone of modern business. For this conversation on the future of business runs on digital trust, I'm joined in by Anant Deshpande, Regional Vice President for India and ASEAN at DigiCert, and also Satyavrat Mishra, Head Corporate IT and Group CISO at Godrej Industries Limited. So thank you so much for joining us as well. Anand, let's get into basics and let's start with the basics to set the context for our audiences. When we talk about digital trust, let's start with what does it really mean? And also, in this conversation, we are talking about the future of businesses and on digital trust. So, what does it actually mean? And also, at the same point, why is it so critical for us to talk about it today?
Yeah, thanks. And see, to answer your question, Manshi, digital trust is absolutely fundamental to the connected world today. Everything that is around us, applications, machines, devices, is all a set of identities that has to be managed. And digital trust is the fabric that manages all of this. It is the foundational infrastructure of the internet today. There can be no cybersecurity without digital trust. I mean, just think about it. If you travel on a plane, what gives you the confidence that the avionics system on that plane are secure? Or if you're doing a UPI transaction as an example, how do you know that the transaction is secure? Or if customer is going to big basket, how do you know that the transaction is going to be secure? So digital trust is what enables all of this, right? So it is absolutely fundamental.
All right. Thank you for setting the context for us, and I'll move to you, sir. You come from a very diversified groups. You serve your customers across spectrum. So how do you sort of secure? At the same point in time, how do you see the digital trust shaping a way? Shaping the way a large organization sort of secure its customers, employees, and a lot of other stakeholders as well.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for this question. So obviously, as you know, that Godrej Group is a conglomerate and has got around 7, 8 different businesses. So therefore, the digital trust is fundamental. And in fact, I mean, within Godrej, customer centricity is at the core of our business values, and providing a customer centric solutions, understanding their needs and requirement is fundamental to our business. Now, over the last many years, there are thousands and thousands of digital assets that have proliferated. Since we are into so many different business, whether it is real estate, whether it is consumer product or agri business, there are apart from employees and customers, there are digital assets in the form of websites, APIs, OT setup. Large factories have got OT setups. So therefore, it has become far more complex in today's environment to understand that whoever is interacting with this interaction that is happening between all these digital assets, how do we really ascertain the identity of these uh, basically digital assets? So therefore, it has become far more complex, and that is why we need to have some kind of solution. So for example, just to give a couple of examples, when it comes to our own employees and all, we believe in zero trust architecture, right? So we have implemented solutions around zero trust, but that takes care of only the north south traffic, right? So when employees are interacting with the certain services and solutions, we identify that these are the set of people who are really interacting. But when it comes to interaction between the servers or interaction with third parties, that is where this digital trust becomes far more complex, because not all of these digital assets are under our domain, right? And that is where some kind of a third party solution or a industry standard to ascertain that if I'm, say, communicating with a bank server or a bank API, it really is that particular bank's API, and therefore there is no gap in terms of that communication, etc. So that becomes more fundamentally important.
Thank you so much for sharing that perspective. And that brings me to my next question to you, Anant. When we talk about digital trust, certifications, encryptions, identities, a lot sits under that umbrella. So, also talk to me about what are those common misconceptions that organizations all over still perhaps carry when it comes to the digital trust.
Yeah. So there are two parts of this question, Himanshi. One is around digital trust. and that is a fabric. Yeah, security is like a fabric, and the decisions that you take around security today will have a profound impact on not just your technology but also your business outcomes in the days to come. So you have to be cognizant of what you're putting into your environment today, because later on it becomes very difficult to sort of rip and replace that fabric out without damaging the fabric. Now, coming to, you asked me about what are the misconceptions about digital trust. It's largely perceived today about certificates, as you rightly said. And while certificates are the atomic building blocks, I would say, of this digital trust fabric, uh, and look, it's pretty simple to deploy certificates, procure certificates. That's not really the challenge. The challenge is that how do you really do this at scale? Because there are so many certificates sprawled all over your environment, right? And what is really required is how do you get the visibility, the ability to kind of manage the entire life cycle of all of those certificates? Because a single expired certificate could literally bring your business down, and we've seen some examples of that. So that's really how it is. I mean, people have got to really start thinking about moving beyond certificates to how do you start looking at the life cycle of those certificates end to end.
Absolutely. And now we would want a conglomerate's perspective on this as well. Uh, the wide range of operations that Godrej Industries perhaps handles, customers and a lot of other stakeholders, customers, partners, they all want convenience and security at the same point in time, right? Often at the same point in time. So, how do you sort of keep that balance across a wide range of operations?
Yeah, so as you correctly pointed out, and not just from customers, but from within the organization also, sometimes, that kind of guideline that comes that, we should not try and block everything or put too much of inconvenience to the employees. Uh, so obviously it becomes kind of a balancing act, to be honest. But we try to see that, we work in a way that we are business enabler and not just there for the sake of security itself. So we need to take calls based on, what kind of a security solution that we are putting, what are its impacts and implications on the business, how important it is, and then finally we kind of go ahead and take a solution. So all such decisions or the policy formulation, etc., they happen in line with discussion with the business, right? So the first fundamental thing is that understand, what is more critical for the business, have a discussion with the business stakeholders, then identify what are the right solutions, and then go ahead and try and implement those. So I would say that, for example, when it comes to, certain technologies or certain things, an external attack, etc., it's completely IT's call. And we can't really, take chances in that. But when it comes to convenience of employees or convenience of customer, etc., we need to kind of balance it out and see, what is really more important at
No,
that point in
absolutely.
time.
Thank you for sharing that. And that, with all the sort of technologies and the way you sort of balance it within your organization, also brings me to my question that how does a digital trust framework actually look like? Right. And Anant, if you can come to this question from an expert's perspective, uh, in an Indian context, how does that digital framework, the trust digital trust framework actually look like? Like, what should we expect from a good quality digital trust framework?
Yeah, it's like asking about nutrition, right? What are the right nutrients in my daily meal, right? And digital trust is no different, right? You got to have the right ingredients in it. And I think, and I touched upon this in my previous answer, I think it all starts with visibility first and foremost, and that's really the framework. So you start with visibility because you cannot manage what you cannot see, you cannot secure what you cannot see. You need to have complete visibility into everything in your IT estate, right? That's one. Because once you get visibility, then you can start taking business decisions, right? What should I prioritize, what can I let by, and so on and so forth. Of course it has to be scalable, so whatever you're looking at, and think about it from that fabric perspective that I spoke about. Yeah, it's got to be scalable. Now, if you talk about UPI and the scale of UPI, your solution, whatever solution it is, has to be like massively, massively scalable. Yeah. And importantly, and this is really, really important, it has to be consistent and it has to be interoperable, right? Because inconsistency is not the friend of security, right? Complexity is not the friend of security. You cannot have a different way to manage, say, AWS versus Azure, or physical versus virtual, data center versus the edge, cloud, non cloud. You have to have one single pane. And then what about automation? Automation is not an option, by the way, yeah? Especially in a digital trust concept or construct, sorry, right? Whatever can be automated has to be automated, and that is table stakes. And finally, it has to have some kind of future proofing in it, because, and what I mean by that is, you have technologies like quantum that are coming in, wherein generative AI, interactive AI will come in at some point of time. So, and when we know that those technologies are coming at us, how do you sort of embed those into the current construct of that architecture? So you asked me about what are the key ingredients. I think those are probably the 5 or 6 key ingredients
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I would talk about. Yeah.
All right, thank you. And as you're talking about future proofing, we should perhaps know about the future as well. And this is where I would like to end my panel. You know, if we look at 3 to 5 years ahead, how will a digital trust framework look like, and what would be the main aspects of it? We'll start with you, just 1 or 2 points, and then we'll end with you, Raghu.
Yeah, so as you rightly pointed out, that it cannot be a disjointed, solution. It has to be a unified solution, and perhaps I think AI is certainly going to play an important role, even in digital framework, right? So instead of having, say, pointed solutions for each kind of identity, whether it is end user identity or a server identity network or customer identity, there has to be a kind of a framework or a solution that can look at holistically and provide automated alerts, automated certificates, etc. I mean, that is the kind of thing that in the next 3 to 5 years, which will be a necessity for most of the large
All right,
organizations.
what about you? Will it be a real differentiator, or simply table stakes for survival?
Both.
Both?
Yes, the table stakes are the differentiator in that sense, right? Because it's all about identity, honestly speaking, right? And this will evolve. But I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but what I think the future will really look like is sort of a unified trust fabric, if you will, which incorporates all of the elements that we spoke about, including automation, visibility, identity at scale. So I think, and all of this has to be done in a completely autonomous manner. And it's like different strokes for different blokes. What I mean is, you need to have a different identity and the form factor for something like a container, as an example, versus an IoT device, versus a mobile phone, as an example. So how does the trust fabric essentially determine what is the right identity and what is the right form factor? How does it get automated? How does it get deployed? Sorry. So all of this sort of becomes one intelligent system under a unified trust fabric. So that would
All
be my
right.
take on that.
And with that, on that particular note, I would like to end this conversation. The feels like the future of business perhaps doesn't just run on speed or scale. It will run on digital trust, and who does it better will perhaps decide who stays ahead. Right. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen, for being a part of this conversation. And to our viewers, stay tuned for many more such insightful and exciting conversations only at ET Studios.